Hello and welcome to Bonus Bookworms. It's the show where we read books, talk about those books. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Joe.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing good, Alex. That was a sultry intro.
I know,
And
right?
you wearing that sleeveless tee, I mean, that just, whew. Good thing there's no ladies around here because they'd be swooning right now.
Welcome to the gun show. Man, our YouTube views are going to go through the roof.
Yeah, that audio version is something else.
Yeah. Whatever bumps up the listens, baby.
Yeah, get those 3 listens up to 4. So yeah, this is a bonus episode. This was a request by a fan. Oh, talking about fans, Alex. You know how we have like 2 people that actually comment on us? We actually had a new comment. This is a few months ago now, but from recording. But we had it in the wild. Someone listened to our Night Watch book, the second one, the Russian one.
Yeah.
She was not happy with our review.
Oh, really?
She loved the series versus our kind of ambivalence. She's read all 6 books. So, congratulations. That's good. I mean, this is never about putting down someone's love for a book. This is just our takes. If you enjoy reading books, we encourage you to read books. So,
yeah.
But thank you for commenting, and we do read all your comments. So, looking out for them.
Yeah, and you enjoyed that book enough to bring it back for the podcast. So
I did, and I did read the first 4, which is all that was out when I was reading them. The last 2 came out after I kind of said I was done with the series, and I thought it was over. So yeah. That's on Spotify. So if you guys are on Spotify or go to Spotify, give us a comment, give us some love. We do enjoy it. So anyways, back to this book. So this was a fan recommendation. They wanted to know if it was worth the read. So we're doing a kind of a segment thing here where it's compare the book to the movie.
Yes, and we chose one that's very tied together.
Yeah, so it's a little late now because we just watched the movie together, and so it's past my bedtime. I don't know about Alex. I don't know how late he stays up. He's awfully young.
Yeah, it's we're gonna struggle through this.
But yeah, so the book is the famous Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson.
A savage journey to the heart of the American dream.
Yeah, so this is a classic. This is something that caught the zeitgeist quite hard back in the day, and when the movie came out, rekindled that fire.
Yeah, and at the bottom of my copy it says, now a major motion picture. I feel like they need to redefine what the word now means. Yes.
That's only 25, 27 years ago now, but I got the 50th anniversary edition, so that's a little bit closer here.
Yeah, because it was 71, so 2021, 50 years.
Yeah, long time.
Especially for a piece of journalism, that's insane.
Well, is it really journalism though, Alex? I mean, that is the question.
It's a journalist being really bad at his job and being probably rewarded more than any journalist has ever been by the public. You get Pulitzers for doing Woodward and Bernstein level work, but yeah, he goes on just a drug-induced binge, doesn't do what he goes to do, and comes out on top.
For the moment.
Yeah.
Like most drug stories, it depends on where you end it.
Yeah, if he ended right at his peak, and then the last 20 years or so, deep valleys.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna read the back of mine here. I don't know if yours might have something different, being it's a 20-year difference here.
Mine just has a quote from the book.
Okay. So first published in Rolling Stone magazine in 1971, this cult classic of gonzo journalism is the best chronicle of drug-soaked, addle-brained, rollicking good times ever committed to the printed page. It is also the tale of a long weekend road trip that has gone down in the annals of American pop culture as one of the strangest journeys ever undertaken. The writer's account of an assignment he undertook with his attorney to visit Las Vegas and check it out. The book stands as the final word on the highs and lows of the 1960s, one of the defining works of our time in a stylistic and journalistic tour de force. So just so you guys know, this is a work of fiction. It is based loosely off of 2 trips the author and his attorney took to Las Vegas that were like, months and months apart. But the amount of drugs he did, the amount of drinking he did, the amount of driving they did while under the influence did not actually happen in those quantities.
Yeah,
you get there would have been a lot of dead bodies, including their own, if this was this was factual.
Yeah, I mean, according to Johnny Depp, he read all the notes and he said it was true when they actually left stuff out. But yeah, the amount they do is insane levels of multiple types of hard-hitting narcotics and just non-stop drinking for days at a time. So
yeah, these guys are basically doing the equivalent of like meth for the binges of just being manic for, according to the book, like 5 days straight. So I said, and they're not doing meth. They're doing like LSD and other psychedelics and uppers and downers,
ether, weed. They talk about rum a lot, which explains Johnny Depp, foreshadowing to his future career. They just everything.
How did Hunter S. Thompson actually know that was going to be needed for Johnny Depp in the future? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I would pay money to like go back in time and just add that line into Fear and Loathing. Just like he opens up the trunk of his car to get the rum and it's empty, and he's like, "Why is the rum gone?" It'd be hilarious.
That would be pretty hilarious. So yeah. And Alex has said this opening of the book is one of the best openings he has ever read. So.
Yeah, the opening sentence is great, and the whole opening chapter is one of the best tone setting of like any book I've ever read. It's just incredibly fast paced. It's absolutely bonkers. It's got this really high shock value for what these guys are doing on their road trip into Vegas, and that's probably the most famous part of the whole book. Most famous part of the whole movie is the driving into Vegas before the story proper starts. Not that there's not really much of a story. It's just
following 2 guys on a drug binge.
We watched the movie and it's literally just them running around hotels high off their minds. So yeah,
pretty much. How anyone would think this is, drugs are fun after that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't help you.
I remember like high school, people would talk about the movie or they'll read the book and they'd be like, "Boy, that was insane. That was crazy. These guys did amazing things." And then I watch it and I'm like, wow, that's like, even they're like, yeah, this is bad. We're addicts. We should not be doing this.
Yeah, I guess we are not the target audience for this, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like one of those...
it's not like we don't enjoy imbibing every once in a while with some of the legal stuff. It's just wow. It's just wow.
It's one of those things where like they get praised and rewarded for doing the wrong thing, or because people miss the point. Like you see that a lot in like television and stuff. Like, oh, like everyone dresses like Walter White, even though he's a monster. Or I'm trying to think, like it's a Wolf of Wall Street guy. It's like another person who did excessive amounts of drugs and defrauded the stock market heavily, and he's kind of like Wolf of Wall Street came out, and it's like got this like shocking humor to it, whereas like, oh, it's not as bad as what it really was, which in reality it's really bad. So like I think Hunter S. Thompson, he's trying to maintain that kind of Wolf of Wall Street tone with what he's done in this book, but at the same time it's like, wow, you did really bad things and you're a total dick.
Pretty much, yeah. So why don't you read that opening paragraph there, Alex? Let's get the people...
Get the people what they want.
Yeah, get them in the mood.
We were somewhere around Barstow on the edge of the desert when the drugs began to take hold. I remember saying something like, "I feel a bit lightheaded. Maybe you should drive." And suddenly there was a terrible roar all around us, and the sky was full of what looked like huge bats, all swooping and screeching and diving around the car, which was going about 100 miles an hour with the top down to Las Vegas. And a voice was screaming, "Holy Jesus, are these goddamn animals?"
So yeah, starting it off at 90 and just going from there, cruising from there.
Starting off at 100, yeah. I will read the back of my book because it is further in the first chapter. It's kind of also more drug talk. He's giving a list of all the drugs they have in the car. So we had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker half full of cocaine, and a whole galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, screamers, laughers. Also a quart of tequila, a quart of rum, a case of Budweiser, a pint of raw ether, and 24 amyls. The only thing that worried me was the ether. There was nothing in the world more helpless and irresponsible than a man in the depths of an ether binge.
So keep that in mind, folks. When you've hit the ether, you've hit rock bottom. You've done all the drugs. It's time to go home. So yeah. So the first half of this book is actually, we really enjoyed. I enjoyed, and then it drags.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because basically everything by the end of part 1, he's said everything he needs to say, and part 2 just feels repetitive at that point. The shock value wears off, and you're like, all right, he's got a new car. They're paranoid about the girl that Dr. Gonzo brought back to the hotel room, and he keeps vomiting. And literally all that happened in the first part of the book.
Yeah, I mean, the first part, the whole reason of going to Vegas is to cover a dirt bike race in the desert. That's supposedly this big thing that ends up not being a big thing long term. I don't know if you did any research on that, Alex, but the Mint Cup, I don't believe ever exploded like they thought it would for popularity.
Yeah, they were covering the 4th annual Mint Cup, and it didn't really pan out.
And that's not to say that there aren't big races in the desert still, but I believe that specific one did not continue for too many more years after.
Yeah, and like that portion of the story, the thing he went out there to do, it's covered in about 1 chapter of the book, and 1 scene in the movie where it's a bunch of dust gets kicked up, and they're trying to take pictures, and they're getting no pictures, and it's impossible to tell what's happening, so it's impossible to cover, and it's just a huge mess. So he goes back to drinking with his lawyer. Yeah,
so I guess according to Google AI, it's still held annually, but said, again, I don't think it's nearly what the movie and the book is saying, like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing that people are into, and I don't think
the next Indy 500.
Exactly, and it never really.
Yeah, I'm sure it's big with dirt bike enthusiasts still, but it's I don't know. It hasn't really reached the lay people like some big races do. It's no Kentucky Derby.
Nope. But yeah, so that's why they go out there, and ends up being just let's get high on drugs with this random Samoan lawyer who likes doing drugs. And they get to the hotel, and he's seeing lizard people. That's one of those scenes in the movie that's very iconic, even though it's really short. It's like 2 minutes in the movie, but because it's just so out there and whatnot, you realize it sticks with you. Also, in the book, there's a lot of artwork by what's his name, Ralph Steadman, and the artwork is actually pretty fantastic. Can you describe it, Alex? It's just
just they're all just black and white drawings of disgusting caricatures of all the characters and descriptions that they make. So like all the facial features are really exaggerated, like everyone's wrinkly and fat and disgusting, and like has huge mouths, huge eyes, and like just huge guts. Everything's kind of like saggy and hanging. The beginning to part 2 is absolutely disgusting. We see Dr. Gonzo like puking naked in a toilet, and the maid walking in on him. It's
you get the picture of the lizard people, and it really is pretty grotesque. Like if you saw that in a drug-induced frenzy, you would be screaming your head off, because this is something out of a horror movie. It's almost so over the top. It's goofy, but again, it's just like, it is grotesque. So yeah, but yeah. So what else do we got here?
I don't know. I like. I don't know if we're bouncing between the book and the movie, but like I said at the beginning, the movie really follows the book closely.
Oh, very close. You can almost, like you said earlier when we were watching, you could almost take the book and go line by line on the dialogue, and it's almost exact.
Yeah, I'd say probably like 80% of the dialogue is in the book, like actual dialogue from the book.
Yeah, they were very. The movie's very true. I mean, we did point out there was a couple scenes that got cut out or shortened, which was probably to the movie's benefit.
Yeah, they cut out like the second half. He starts getting into he never really mentions Vietnam directly, but he gets into like Nixon criticism, which by 1998 like this is pre-Watergate. So by 1998, the Nixon-Agnew criticisms gets kind of old. So he kind of makes that more background noise, and he makes it more, I guess, about more Vietnam focused. So because he has actual like war footage inserted into the movie and things like that. So things that aren't mentioned directly, he finds a way to like sneak it in like a little Easter egg. Which Terry Gilliam, he's a very well-known director. He's a member of Monty Python. Very, very legendary director, actor, person. So
Yeah, he's done a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, 12 Monkeys, great movie.
Oh, that was an awesome movie. Maybe we should just do a movie podcast, review movies like that.
Yeah, we could do a Terry Gilliam night. Brazil and all those things.
Yeah, but yeah. So between part 1 and part 2, I think like we said, it would have been a 100-page book, so more of a novella length if he had stopped it when we think he should have. But like he's said, he's escaping Las Vegas. His lawyer had abandoned him. His lawyer likes just to take off on him, and he's trying to get back to L.A. I think it's L.A., right?
Yeah,
L.A.
Somewhere in California.
Yeah, I think it's L.A. because he's that's the main road out of Vegas is to L.A. and he gets pulled over by a cop, and
he's incredibly paranoid now because he skipped out on his hotel bill.
Yeah, and he's been awake for like 3-4 days straight without sleep. Like I said, he's just been on one giant drug binge. So between the lack of sleep,
he's been blacking in and out.
Yeah, and the amount of drugs he's taken.
His lawyer is completely unhinged.
Yeah, and gone, so that doesn't help.
Yeah,
and he's drinking and driving.
He comes out of it, and his lawyer's like suddenly disappeared and like caught a plane back to L.A. and left him alone with the bill. So he's trying to sneak out with the bill. He's got a unregistered handgun and a briefcase full of drugs in his car. And he's trying to get out of town. So he's in the desert. He gets pulled over by a cop.
So I'm just gonna read this quote real quick, Alex, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
About 5 miles back, I had a brush with a CHP. Not stopped or pulled over. Nothing routine. I always drive properly. A bit fast, perhaps, but always with consummate skill and a natural feel for the road that even cops recognize. No cop was ever born who isn't a sucker for a finely executed high-speed controlled drift all the way around one of those cloverleaf freeway interchanges. Few people understand the psychology of dealing with a highway traffic cop. Your normal speeder will panic and immediately pull over to the side when he sees the big red light behind him. And then we will start apologizing, begging for mercy. This is wrong. It arouses contempt in the cop heart. The thing to do when you're running along about 100 or so and you suddenly find a red flashing CHP tracker on your trail, what you want to do is accelerate. Never pull over with the first siren howl. Mash it down and make the bastard chase you at speeds of up to 120 all the way to the next exit. He will follow, but he won't know what to make of your blinker signal that says you're about to turn right. This is to let him know you're looking for a proper place to pull off and talk. Keep signaling and hope for an off-ramp, one of those uphill side loops with a sign saying max speed 25, and the trick at this point is to suddenly leave the freeway and take him onto the chute at no less than 100 miles an hour. He will lock his brakes about the same time you lock yours, but it will take him a moment to realize that he's about to make a 180-degree turn at this speed, but you will be ready for it, braced for the G's in the fast heel-toe work, and with any luck at all, you will come to a complete stop off the road at the top of the turn and be standing beside your automobile by the time he catches up. So that is the...
He still takes the time to mess with the cops.
Yeah.
It's a national pastime for 50 years now.
Yeah. And he ends up getting out of any sort of trouble, even though he's drinking and driving and got a suitcase full of drugs.
Yeah. The 70s
and a backseat full of, was it grapefruits or oranges?
Yeah, he had a little
and
grapefruits.
Soap and beer and a bunch of other randomness.
Yeah, in the book, like the cop takes the empty beer can out of his hand and like empties it out, or like pours the rest of it out onto the ground. And yeah, it's like there's a comedian I was listening to. He's talking about George Bush getting arrested for drunk driving in the 70s. It's like, do you know how drunk you had to be to get arrested for drunk driving in the 70s? Like, you had to fall out of the car and flames had to rocket out of your ass, and the cop would just be like, "You're shit-faced, you're hammered. Get yourself home safe, okay?"
You hear about Emma Watson?
No.
She lost her license for 6 months.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, in England.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
She was going 6 miles over the speed limit.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, man, how fast was Emma Watson having to drive to lose her license? And apparently it was strike number 3, which was part of it. But it was like 6 miles an hour. That's all it takes in England to get pulled over. Here in Massachusetts, that's 6 miles over the speed limit. You're being passed like you're standing still by, the grandma.
Yeah, but I gotta ask though, 6 miles. What is that in kilometers?
But they drive by miles in England.
Do they though?
Yeah, they do.
Oh man,
we looked it up when we saw the headlines.
Oh, that ruins my joke. Every time I meet someone named Miles, I'm like, your name is kilometers in England.
Yeah, you have to do that in Ireland or France.
All right, I'll fix that.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, he gets pulled over, told to sleep it off. He says, I can't sleep because I'll be sleeping for 5 days if I do that. And then he makes a deal with the cop that he'd go out of that cop's jurisdiction to go get lunch and calm down and then continue driving. But he gets so paranoid that he's like, they're going to be chasing me all the way to L.A. and they'll get me. So he decides the best course of action is to call his lawyer and drive back to Vegas.
Yeah, which he finds out that a telegram he'd received is actually another job offer to go back to Vegas and cover a drug convention for police officers.
Yeah, which they thought was a brilliant idea. A couple of druggies stoned out of their gourds going to a drug convention with a bunch of cops.
And this is probably the biggest timeline discrepancy in the book versus what really happened, because these were set like 6 months apart or something in his real life. So I don't know how much of the meeting the cop is a fabrication, or if he just ended his story at meeting a cop and then 6 months later he has to go back to Vegas, so he invented the telegram portion to get him back there immediately.
I did think it was strange. I didn't realize in the late 60s telegrams were still a thing,
Well, yeah, you gotta still if you're playing phone tag with landlines, you sometimes Western Union, sometimes you just gotta send somebody out to do a little search party and find somebody and get it to them.
See, I thought like in the movie, in the book too, but they were the hotel clerks would say, yeah, you have a message. We have, they just write our physical message down instead of because they didn't have answering machines back then either. So they just someone would write it down and then find you, kind of thing. And it would be that was kind of a service in itself.
Yeah, and they'd called the hotel gave him the note, so I don't know if it's maybe they did call the hotel and say give him this, and this, but clearly that portion is not real anyway, because
exactly, yeah.
So he kind of made that part up. Obviously, it's very obvious that part's fabricated. Also, in the I don't think it happened in the book, but the cop in the movie, played by Gary Busey, he asks for a kiss at the end of it. He says he gets lonely and he asks for a kiss.
Yeah, that definitely didn't happen in the book.
I feel like there might have been some ad-libbing going on there.
Yeah, I think Gary Busey's like, I'm just going to throw this in there and see what they do, because he's kind of crazy like that.
Yeah, that was before he went totally batshit too, after his accident.
Yeah, the movie does have a star-studded cast. I mean, we were pointing out, oh, there's that famous person, there's that famous, these are some of the biggest names.
Yeah, Toby.
Of the 90s and the aughts.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire plays the hitchhiker at the beginning. Christina Ricci plays Lucy.
Cameron Diaz was the reporter.
Yeah, and Vern Troyer from Austin Powers, he has a cameo.
Yeah,
he actually has a bigger role in a different Terry Gilliam movie.
Does he?
Yeah, Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Okay,
it was Heath Ledger's last movie.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
Yeah, he's in that. But yeah, there's also was it Mark Harmon, Gibbs from NCIS? He has a one-line cameo in the thing.
Yeah, you almost don't recognize him because he's so young looking.
Literally just a background character. Yeah. I was pretty sure he was an established actor by the 90s.
Yeah, but you look at all these background actors that had one or two lines. You're like, hey, wait a second, that's a big name actor right there. So clearly this had enough pulling power from Hollywood to say everyone wanted to be part of this project.
And Terry Gilliam's he's a legendary director, but he's not pumping out blockbusters. He was kind of riding a high in the 90s with some of his biggest movies, but at the same time it's you're not going to make a ton of money working for him, so obviously people wanted in on this project.
Yeah, because the book was so famous that, and a lot of these actors are of that, would have been young at that generation, so something they would have heard about and knew about and learned about and been I want want to be a part of that because this is childhood.
And you see the two main actors and also all like the set pieces. Like it's like the attention to detail is insane. Like Johnny Depp lived with Hunter S. Thompson, lived in his basement for 4 months. Took like all the clothes he's wearing in the movie belonged to Hunter S. Thompson. Benicio del Toro gained 45 pounds in like 2 months to play the Dr. Gonzo, and and then all the attention to detail, all the little Easter eggs from the book that are inserted into the background, heavily lifting the dialogue from the book and turning it into a screenplay. Like they didn't skimp on this movie, so there's obviously a lot of love for this craft. Regardless, I know it's got kind of mixed reviews, but regardless of your thoughts on it, they definitely at least worked really hard on it.
Yeah, so I guess I don't understand the mixed reviews. I mean, where are those coming from? There's just people that didn't like the book to begin with. They're like, this is just drug culture. Rah! Kind of like the cops in part 2. Yep.
Yeah, no,
a roach. Is it called a roach because it looks like a cockroach?
Yeah, played by Michael Jeter. That guy can make anything funny. That guy was great. I don't know. I didn't read the reviews. I just saw the Rotten Tomatoes score was like 51% or something.
Wow, that seems low. I mean, again, not something I'd want to like watch on the regular, but if it's like this is definitely one of those cult classic movies that just is gonna live forever, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I thought the pacing was weird, but second time through, I'm like, oh, this is a lot better than I remember. Definitely similar to the book. The second half, it's sort of like, all right, you can cut a little bit more of this out. We don't need the diner scene. We get it. He's a bad guy, but it's it's a lot better than I thought it was, than I remembered it. So it's I'll give them that.
When
it's
did you first watch it? 'Cause I was in, I think, late high school, early college when I watched it.
It was a couple years ago for me.
Okay.
I think I'd heard about it. It's this legendary cult classic. And so I think I was expecting more, and like I'm a Terry Gilliam fan, and that was one I hadn't watched for a long time. So it's I don't know, I was kind of disappointed first time I watched it, but second time through, I'm like, all right, I can see better what it's going through. Also, just between the book and the movie, there's no plot really. Like it's just like we said, dudes running through hotel hallways,
or casinos, and
overdosing on ether.
Yeah, like the whole going to the Bazooka Circus or
Circus.
Circus. Well, in the movie it was Bazooka Circus, in the book is Circus. I think they probably had to change the name for the movie. Because Circus, like, no, we do not want our name thrown in here. Where I bet, the Flamingo, I think, closed or got rebought or reopened or whatever. I don't think it was the same owners in the 70s as it is when the movie came out. So like the whole circus and the hotel stuff was like, the circus one especially was just like, okay, we can, like the monkey scene, trying to buy the monkey, the ape. It's like, what is this? Like, we get you're trying to show you went too far and it's just total chaos, but you were there eons ago. It was like you were too far in the first 20 pages of the book or the first 10 minutes of the movie, and you don't need all this extra stuff other than make it, like I said, novel length instead of novella length.
Yeah, even if you just shaved like 20 pages off the end, I would have been fine with that.
Yeah, and it's like the movie's 2 hours. It probably could have been just over 90 minutes.
Yeah, and he loads it up with political commentary and like stories that other people told him, or distant tales of long ago that he could have easily taken out. It's like, oh yeah, there's like you threw in another shocking story that you overheard or that you experienced, which is fine, but like maybe have that be like a supplemental material. Like this is a little over 200 pages. If it was like 180 pages, I think it would be able to maintain that pace of just pure shock value and
so this is
pace all the way through.
Yeah, this is a shocking statement in the beginning of part 2. I only highlighted the very end of it. Let me try to find the beginning. Okay, so again, we're just starting part 2 and trying to get that 100 miles an hour to that 120 and maintain that speed, but we've already been at 120 for 100 pages here. So, but this is trying to again one up it. Baltimore UPI. Doctors said Friday they were uncertain whether surgery would succeed in restoring the eyesight of a young man who pulled out his eyes while suffering the effects of a drug overdose in a jail cell. Charles Inez Jr., 25, underwent surgery late Thursday at Maryland General Hospital, but doctors said it may be weeks before they could determine the outcome. A statement issued by the hospital reported that Inez had no light perception in either eye prior to surgery, and the possibility he will ever have light perception is extremely poor. Inez, son of a prominent Massachusetts Republican, was found in a jail cell Thursday by a turnkey who said Inez had pulled out his eyeballs. Inez was arrested Wednesday night while walking nude through a neighborhood near where he lived. He was examined at Mercy Hospital and then placed in a jail cell. Police and one of Inez's friends said he had taken an overdose of an animal tranquilizer. Police reported the drug was PCP, a Park Davis product not sold for human medical purposes since 1963. However, a spokesperson for Park Davis said he thought the drug might be available on the black market. Taken alone, the spokesman said PCP effects would not last more than 12 to 14 hours. However, the effects of PCP combined with an hallucinogen such as LSD were not known. Inez told a neighbor last Saturday, the day after he first took the drug, that his eyes were bothering him and that he could not read. Wednesday night, police said Inez seemed to be in a deeply depressed state and so impervious to pain that he did not scream when he pulled out his eyes. So yeah, that's the ending of chapter 1 of part 2 there.
Yeah, so yeah, it goes from it's like a lot of drug talk, and now it's like, I guess if you want to talk about the transition, yeah, he's getting more into the horrors of drug addiction and what can go wrong, but at the same time, it's not changing his behavior. He doesn't really he's trying to find ways, he's adding things, I think, upon reflection after all these events happen to try and make some point of it, because he keeps talking about chasing the American dream, and drugs were a big part of the hippie countercultural movement, and this is kind of the end result though of drugs, is you end up pulling your eyes out, or you end up falling into addiction, you end up exacerbating issues with depression and anxiety, and
except in the end that Hunter S. Thompson continued doing what he was doing. This is him saying, don't do drugs necessarily, but at the same time he's continued doing them because he's like, this is my life, this is what I enjoy, this is how I love life, doing drugs and shooting guns.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a brilliant combination.
Oh yeah. That's how he died.
Well, so Hunter ended up killing himself because he got a diagnosis of, I think, terminal cancer.
Yeah, he was having a lot of health issues.
And he had always battled depression anyways, probably from the massive drug use, or the drug use was to mask the depression as a self-medication type thing. But yeah, so basically he said, screw that, let's go out on a high note, I guess. But I say, obviously, the people that are like, this sounds awesome. Obviously, Hunter S. Thompson thought it was awesome. He was one of those people that was like, no, this is the fun lifestyle I want to live.
And even after it kind of wrecked his career and ended his life, it's sort of like people don't really pay too much attention to that. They see him at his high point where he's able to do all these things and produce a lasting piece of work. But yeah, then the last bit of his life
about
is
all these famous rock stars. We all remember them for their peaks where they're just doing drugs and all sorts of partying all the time, and they put out some of their best music right at that point, but then they burn out and crash, and it's like everyone's like, well, why can't they do that anymore? It's like because they burnt themselves out. They partied too hard, did too many drugs, and even if they get off the drugs, they've burnt all those neurons in their brain out to be able to produce anything like that anymore.
Yeah, people talk about Syd Barrett from Pink Floyd, and he was on the first album and a half for Pink Floyd, and it's usually considered their most influential album, their first one, and it's but yeah, then he burned out on drugs, and the rest of his life was really sad and usually tragic from any point of view.
And usually when you look at it more closely, a lot of that good work happened, the groundwork was laid out for those big hits or the big books before they got the major addictions, before they that rise to the ultra fame. So using Pink Floyd, they probably did dabble in the drugs and the alcohol, but it was after those albums came out that they went so hard, and they just they said they burned out, and burned out, and they weren't able to recover from it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Also, Dr. Gonzo, he was actually a real person as well. He's Oscar Acosta, and was like talking about like the way these two people's lives turned out. He went missing in 1974 and is presumed dead. So it's
I'd say that's a good guess at this point in time that he
Yeah.
even if he did not die in '74, he was shortly thereafter.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think even I was reading the Wikipedia page because that's what counts for research these days. Like his son basically just said like, yeah, knowing him, he probably just mouthed off to the wrong person and paid a heavy price for it.
Yeah, and I said, if it's any of the interactions were even half true that he had when he was in one of these drug states where he's threatening people and
He's attacking the maids.
yeah, and just doing stuff, do that to the wrong person. These guys aren't exactly in the highest class of places. You do that to Hell's Angel. Okay, fine. Pull out the pistol, shoot him in the head, and throw him in the desert. Okay, have a nice time with the buzzards.
Yeah, like that part of the country, there's a lot of places to hide a body where they'll never be found.
And there's a lot of dangerous people in low places.
Oh yeah.
And like again, these guys are able to rub elbows with the top of society, but you look at them and it's clear that they don't fit in. That they are not there. That they shouldn't be there. And then when you see them later in the movie when they're in those drudgery places of Vegas, so hey, yeah, they actually that's where they kind of belong because they're just so far gone crazy and out there that you guys fit in with the dregs of society.
Yeah, and I was kind of talking about like even like the whole like it's better to burn out and fade away thing. If you want to make that argument for like why you might support this kind of lifestyle that's being portrayed here, like the most famous part of, I mean, other than the opening chapter, is the wave portion, where it's like the whole central thesis to the book, where he's reflecting on. It's now 1971. He's reflecting on the whole countercultural movement, the Vietnam protests, and how like the world kind of came together.
The hippie movement.
Yeah, the hippie movement. I was going to read. It's a kind of a longer bit, but he was talking about like how he's in Vegas 5 years ago, and it was a completely different vibe where everything was much more, I guess, feeling cohesive rather than a bunch of gambling addicts and drug addicts and sex addicts all coming together and or like kind of falling apart. It was like people were coming together and it was part of a community and there was a union, and then he's reflecting on that after binge drinking, and he's kind of coming down from it, or binge drugs, drinking, whatever. He's doing everything.
Doing everything, Alex. He's binging.
Yeah. I was thinking about doing this one, but like, because I guess this is probably one of the most oft-quoted portions of the book, but I'll do it. All right. Strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. 5 years later? 6? It seems like a lifetime, or at least a main era. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. Maybe it meant something. Maybe not, in the long run. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time and the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit, but even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash for reasons that nobody really understands at the time, and which never explain, in retrospect, what actually happened. My central memory of that time seems to hang on 1 or 5 or maybe 40 nights, or very early mornings, when I left the Fillmore half crazy, and instead of going home, aimed the big 650 Lightning across the Bay Bridge at 100 miles an hour, wearing LL Bean shorts and a Butte Shepherdess jacket, booming through the Treasure Island Tunnel, the lights of Oakland and Berkeley and Richmond. Not quite sure which turn-off to take when I got to the other end, always stalling at the toll gate, too twisted to find neutral while I fumbled for change, but being absolutely certain that no matter which way I went, I would come to a place where people were just as high and wild as I was. No doubt at all about that. There was madness in any direction, at any hour, if not across the bay, then up on the Golden Gate or down 101 to Los Altos or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, and that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of the inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. And so, that's the whole... talk about the pacing in this book. That's about a third of the way in, and that's the whole kind of thesis statement of this book, that Las Vegas is this representation of everything that's wrong with America and the American dream, and that 5 years ago, the American dream, they were like, oh, they almost had it. They had a community. You could go anywhere and feel like you belonged. And now, it was like this huge wave, this was simile or the metaphor that he created for it, that was building towards something. We're going to end war. We're going to find peace. We're going to all come together and feel like we belonged. All those hippy-dippy things that people always talked about back then, or even nowadays, like those lofty dreams and goals that are in some ways possible, in some ways impossible to achieve, and how just it lasted about 5 years and fell apart and drifted away, and people fell into bad ways, and he's one of those people who's in a bad way, and all the people he's seeing, they're just shadows of what could have been. We see we see where it was, and that's all we see anymore. It's not there anymore.
So there's a podcast I occasionally listen to. It's a very controversial figure, especially late in the last couple of years, but his early stuff is definitely worth a listen. The podcast is the Martyr Made podcast with Daryl Cooper. He does his first series was a little sidebar, was on the Israel-Palestine conflict, how it's all started, going from the late 1800s all the way up into, I believe he goes up into the 1970s, before he finally says, okay, we're going to stop here. But if you want to understand more of what's going on in Israel and Palestine, worth the listen. I think it's 15 hours worth of podcast that he deep dives into that history, and it's, I don't agree with all of his conclusions, but a lot of his information is top notch. But his next series was on Jim Jones, the Kool-Aid cult. And he goes in a deep dive into that, and basically, the 60s to 70s culture, and he has a few other standalone podcasts where he gets really deep into it, and that whole culture of the 60s, and it's falling apart and going into the 70s, and it really gives you a good glimpse into that era for us outsiders that did not live through it, because it was wacky, just the things that subculture was doing, and it was a subculture. It wasn't the mainstream media made it seem bigger than it actually was, but when you dig down into it, you realize it really was a small population of Americans that were participating.
Yeah, the hippie movement wasn't actually as big as it was made to be.
Yeah, but it still had major repercussions on how we think and act today, and so it's definitely worth a look, because if this book has got your interest piqued in that kind of, how did the movements of the 60s, where everything was so positive and everyone coming together, and by 71 it was all falling apart. So definitely check out that podcast. It's a controversial guy, but if you can get over that, he has good information that's worth listening to on that era. So let's wrapping up the book here, because I said we're starting to drag on, Alex. Just like Hunter S. Thompson.
Second half of this podcast is dragging. There's Lucy, the girl.
The girl that might be underage, but is definitely too young and prim and proper to have been mixed up with these guys. But the Dr. Gonzo, the lawyer, got her on drugs and alcohol, and then abandons her in another hotel. And
portrayed by Christina Ricci in the movie. I don't know how old she was in the movie, but still really young, because she was Wednesday Addams in the early 90s, and now it's the late 90s in this movie, so however old she was.
I think in the book she's supposed to be college aged.
Whatever that makes sense. Yeah.
But
18 to 20.
Yeah, so they go to the drug conference. The drugs are, and the constant binging is getting, and lack of sleep is getting to them. He blacks out through most of it. We got all those just weird scenes where he's playing his little recorder back to himself because he's recording everything. He is a journalist supposedly, so he's recording all the interactions and he's trying to piece it together because he's like, none of this makes any sense.
And Dr. Gonzo, he will not stop vomiting. He vomits for chapter after chapter. He's puking in toilets. He's puking on the street.
Remember the show like Interventions or whatever, where they'd find someone that's stuck on drugs and they'd have the whole, there'd be a whole show on it. It's like, just you're watching. It's like watching a slow motion car crash, and like you'll watch some. The show will say, "Oh, we're doing a documentary on drugs," and then it ends up being an intervention at the end. And you're watching the guy taking like a hit of heroin and then just puking, and you're like, "Why would you ever want to do that?" But then it's like, "Yeah, no, they're having the best high in their life." Even though from the outside you're like, "Man, this just looks terrible." They're just puking all over themselves and passing out. It's like, where's the fun in that?
Yeah, but your body craves it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not it doesn't have to make sense. It's just like we see it like that. Like we see Benicio del Toro puking out the side of his car, just vomit running down the white Cadillac, and like he's in the book he aggressively tries to sell drugs to the car next to them,
which is a cop's wife.
Yeah, but in the movie he's just kind of incoherently babbling and shouting at them. And
spitting at them.
He spits rum on the windshield, and he's and it's like, but it's like he needs that fix. It's like he's an addict.
Yeah, then they get him. He needs to get to the airport, so they take him to the airport by just driving through onto the tarmac. And of course, this is the 70s or the 60s, and so it's just like not like security in the last 25 years.
Yeah, it's like it's like I'm trying to remember like 90s air travel. Like I remember having to walk out onto the tarmac to get onto the plane.
That was going away. It still happens occasionally, but it's usually really small planes.
But like if you drive your car onto a tarmac, like crashing through a gate like that, it's like someone's gonna
crashing through the gate. They were crashing just through the fence, in the middle of the fence.
Yeah, if you do that nowadays, someone is going to shoot you. But no, he crashes through the fence. He's cutting across lanes of traffic. And just stops outside the plane, and they get on like nobody's business.
But yeah, so the book's kind of winding down where he's got to get back to L.A. to do his thing. And I got one more quote here. This is not the last chapter, but towards the end. Why bother with newspapers if this is all they offer? Agnew was right. The press is a gang of cruel faggots. Journalism is not a profession or a trade. It is a cheap catch-all for fuck-offs and misfits, a false doorway to the backside of life, a filthy, piss-ridden little hole nailed off by the building inspector, but just deep enough for a wino to curl up from the sidewalk and masturbate like a chimp in a zoo cage.
And just remember, folks, we're just reading it as it's been written.
Yeah. So we're getting to the end of the book. So he's still trying to get that shock value, but you're just like, okay, yeah, we get it. Like throughout the book, he's they did it a couple times in the movie, but in the book he kept going on about how he's got a PhD as a journalist, and then he just said he's one of the biggest fuck up journalists that ever was. And so this kind of just all brings it back together of what he thinks of his trade, his craft. He's like, yeah, this is just a bullshit thing, and I'm here for the party.
Yeah, gonzo journalism breaks every rule of journalism there is. Like, you're supposed to stay out of it. You're supposed to stay unbiased. And like this is probably the best known example of gonzo journalism because it becomes all about him. He is the story that he's reporting on. He's not reporting on the motorcycle rally or the drug convention. He's reporting on the how he wasted a lot of this newspaper's money.
Yeah, a lot of other people's money, and should have gone to jail numerous times for long blocks.
And then, he's, I don't know, he kind of sits and ruminates for a few days before, in the book, he catches a flight to, like, Denver or something like that, but in, they get that cathartic...
He continues the trip.
Yeah, and in the movie, they get the cathartic him driving home, like, last shots of the road leading out of Vegas. So it's like the one of the few minor changes they have. They slightly changed the ending. But, he's, he also gets, like, really heavy, like, quoting songs and stuff, like the amount of Rolling Stones lyrics like the whole like I bust a button on my trousers. I hope they don't fall down. You don't want my trousers to fall down now, do ya? That's from one of the Rolling Stones live albums. Mick Jagger says that.
Yeah.
Like, it's from Get Your Yayas Out. It's like at the end of the first song.
So, final thoughts on the book, Alex, or you have something more you want to go into?
No, I think I'm ready for final thoughts. I mean, he does take some pot shots at Timothy Leary, someone who actually did in his life promote like rampant drug use, and was responsible kind of for getting a lot of people addicted to LSD. So I think that's also kind of, thinking back to my high school days, something that was overlooked. Like, again, he's not promoting this lifestyle. This is like a lifestyle that he's chosen, and he's clearly lived, or he clearly chose like his own path, which is,
and he's happy he went that path.
Yeah, but like, don't romanticize it. It's terrifying, and it's, if you're not equipped to handle it, then you're gonna have a bad time. And even it broke him in the end too, in a lot of ways, because he peaked in the 70s, but then he had the rest of his life to live out, and it wasn't as he wasn't able to maintain it.
In his 30s in the 70s, so.
And he died when he was 67
in
like 2005, so I don't know how to math that out. But yeah, early 30s.
That'd be, so he'd be 30 years after the book, 30 plus years. So, early 30s. And basically that was the height of his life. Because after that, he missed a big fight, the biggest boxing match in history.
Yeah, he was supposed to cover Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Thrilla in Manila, and
he thought it was going to be a blowout, so he decided to blow it off.
Yeah, he like slept. He tried doing Fear and Loathing in Vegas again, where he slept through it, didn't cover the story, but then he didn't write anything to do with any of it, and he stopped covering events. He became extremely unreliable, and his output just plummeted. I made a little motion with my hand of a plummet.
Yeah, that's very good for audio, Alex.
Yeah.
Maybe you do a little sound effect.
Little slide whistle. We gotta be like early morning disc jockeys.
We gotta have a soundboard.
You're listening to Bookworms in the AM. I'm your host, Alex K. Squiggle. I'm sitting here with Joe Swizzle. How are you, Joe Swizzle?
I'm gonna throttle you. Yeah, I said my final thoughts for the book are, it's exciting, fast-paced, anxiety-inducing. I mean, you're reading it and you're just like, this is a lot of drugs and alcohol. You're thinking of like, just take out, like, for me to take out the hard drugs. Like how would I handle just that much alcohol? Forget everything else, just that much alcohol. It's like I do one night and I'd be like, yeah, I'm fucking done. It's like we're not drinking for a month.
Yeah, even when I was at my worst, I did not drink like that.
Yeah.
Like they were pounding down multiple bottles of rum a day.
You wake up and you just like you can't. You're just not functional.
Yeah, and like they never in the movie they're always covered in flop sweat and looking disgusting, but they're somehow able to like move.
Yeah.
At all.
Well, in the book, Hunter says he sweats a lot, and there's one point where he's going to his doctor saying, hey, is this normal? And the guy's like, if you stop sweating, you need to start worrying, because he had kind of hinted how much drugs he had taken. And the guy's like, yeah, with the amount of drugs you're doing, if you stop sweating, it means you're on your way out. You're going to die. So it's a miracle that you can still sweat, because you shouldn't be able to. You should be too dehydrated to be doing what you're doing. So there's a lot of memorable quotes in this. The big whole thing with the American Dream and it's crashing down because the hippie movement failed, and just kind of that drugged out state, and everyone's addicted to something, and nobody's really happy.
It kind of does what, like, an American Dream, the Norman Mailer book we read, like, it kind of does what he's going for in that book, but better. Because
I can see that.
It's just the guy who made it, and his life isn't nearly as good as he thought it'd be, and he ends up basically throwing it all away because he kills his wife, and it just turns into a huge mess, because it was always a mess to begin with, and it never really existed. Like this, I think this is a better way of doing it. Like somebody who's as a journalist is trying to cover it, and is actually giving a real life example, as embellished as it is, and actually like including real things that he witnessed and experienced rather than fictionalizing it. You get a much better view of like, hey, maybe all this excess and dangerous things that we're doing isn't what the American Dream should be.
Yeah, I agree. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. He said that if it was half the first half and maybe a little bit of the second half, it would have been a lot snappier and it would have been a higher rating, 4 or 5 stars, 4.5 stars. But it just kept dragging after a while, and you just like you said, at some point you're numb to it all.
Yeah, like I said, if he took it down to 180 pages, just chop out a couple scenes, couple words, couple pages here and there, it would have been a lot better. I originally, when I read it, I gave it 5 stars. I bumped it down to 4 stars. It's still really good. I think it's still essential reading for any fan of nonfiction or just literature in general. It reads like a fiction book, so you can enjoy it as a fiction book, and it's just even cooler that it really happened. I think a lot of the backstory behind it, both this and the movie, are a lot of the times more interesting than what you actually see and read. But it's quite good, and I think it deserves its place in American history.
Yeah, I think it definitely deserves to stick around. I think having the movie with big cast names and especially Johnny Depp, is going to help keep this story alive for a lot longer than it would by itself. I think it would still last pretty long without the movie. Not like American Dream, where that kind of has really faded out of the general public's eye. So where this is kind of stuck around even if it's just as a cult favorite, it's enough people know it. It's going to be around for a long time, whereas Norman Mailer is kind of that forgotten name that only really heavy-duty English students know him anymore.
Guilty.
Yep. Anything else, Alex?
Yeah, that's all I got. Oh, we should rate the movie too.
Oh, rate the movie. I think the movie's 4 stars, 4 out of 5.
4 stars? Yeah, I would give it also 4 stars. It was slightly better, but not enough to get it up to the 4.5 star.
Yeah, what helps is it's 2 hours long, so it's long for what they're doing, but at the same time, reading the book or listening to the book as Alex did, that's a lot of hours.
Yeah, Hollywood, if you're listening, movies should be 90 minutes.
Brevity is your friend.
Yes, exactly. No more 3-hour epics, unless it's Lord of the Rings.
So you can get away with it once in a while. Don't make it every movie, please.
Yeah. It's even if it's Iron Man can be an hour and a half, it's fine.
I don't really have any questions. We kind of covered them all. So
we hammered this one pretty tight.
Yeah, this was fun. So yeah, that was our bonus episode.
Yeah. If you want to hear us do more movie book comparisons, maybe we can try a movie where they deviate from the book way more than they ought to have. Or maybe a book where the movie is obviously way better. There's a lot of avenues we could explore.
Yeah, we got some comparisons on mind that we want to do already. If you guys have any other thoughts or recommendations, we're willing to take them in and check them out.
Yeah, this was I've been wanting to do a book to movie comparison for a while now. This was not my first choice, but it was on my list. So I'm excited.
I think the next one we do, Alex, is one of your top choices that you mentioned.
Yeah, the first one that popped in my head. I'm like, we gotta do that one.
Yeah, but yeah, so this was a fan recommendation, so we wanted to definitely get that out because I think they recommended it 9 months ago. So
yeah, so it takes us a long time to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, so when you're doing one bonus book a month, we have a lot of books to cover. We'll be doing this for a long time, whether you listen or not. That's okay. We don't care.
The only person I want to hear my voice is you, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Alex.
Of course.
I just want to rip those vocal cords right out.
Gonna put them in the freezer for safekeeping. Thaw them out when I want them.
Yeah, fry them up.
Boy, we took a sharp turn here at the end.
Just trying to get that shock value up.
Where are my manners? Do you want the salt shaker full of cocaine?
No, only if it's we're not driving with a convertible. So yeah, you can find us on obviously any podcast app that you listen to. We are on Spotify. I'll try to get a pull up for this. See if but at least comment if there's any book to movies you guys want to hear. Let us know what you're doing. Rate us on Spotify and Apple. That does help us. If you don't want to rate us, just tell your friends about us. Get our names out there. Get people listening because we want people to read and we want them read good books that maybe aren't popular on the TikTok. So let's see. Alex has some books for sale. If you want to support local small-time authors.
Yeah, I got The Destroyer and Paul Plimpton versus Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's on Amazon. The link will be in the description. See what else we got. I am on Medium, Substack, and Goodreads. I write book reviews of books that we aren't covering currently in the podcast, so if you want to check out those. Alex, have you started your project yet, or are you holding off on it?
I have not. I have an idea. We'll talk about it off.
We have talked about it a few times.
I have an idea of how I want to present it. So I'll present it to you first.
This will be a tease for that then. In the coming months, Alex will have a project coming out that definitely worth checking out, I think, from the little bit I've heard. Let's see. What else we got? Anything, Alex? I feel like I'm missing stuff.
You got all our socials.
Instagram, Kendall Bookworms. DM us there if you want to talk to us. We have an email at kendallbookworms@gmail.com. You can email me there. I do all the correspondings. Alex is just kind of meh. He doesn't do any work. He just shows up, does the hosting.
I'm the talent, as they call it.
Us grunts do all the real work. The bastard. I think that's it. Alex, get us out of here.
All right. Well, that was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Tune in on the 5th of next month for our newest episode. Until then, I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bonus Bookworms.
Out.